And we're back. It is time to talk playoff semifinals, national championship game, maybe a couple of odds and ends from like transfer portal, NFL draft decisions. We'll see where the conversation takes us. But let's see. First game was Notre Dame Penn State on short rest. Fighting Irish get it done. Right now, don't look now. In fact, actually, I need you to look now because it's going to get ugly, I think, in about a week. But right now, I've called every game in the playoff. Thus far, I'm batting 1,000. I will be wrong on the last one. Spoiler alert for my preview on the national championship game. But Notre Dame gets it done. They in the first half looked pretty helpless, like it was 10-0, but it sure felt like it was like, man, I don't know if they're going to score. Came out the second half, way different energy, ran the football, which honestly, after the quick passing game with Steve Angeli kind of leading into at the end of the first half, if you'll recall, Riley Leonard's knocked out of the game briefly. They're evaluating him. Steve Angeli leads a field goal drive and looked pretty good doing it. I was pretty impressed. I was like, hey, man's ready to go. And I thought, okay, maybe that's the answer. Even if it's Riley Leonard coming back in the game, just like quick passes, get it out of his hands quicker. Don't let that pass rush kind of, do what it's been doing. And they came out and they was like, no, we're going to double down on running the football, which they had not done well in the first half. And then all of a sudden, ground game starts clicking. Riley Leonard continues to avoid pressure when he gets it in the passing game. They scored, I think, 17 straight points from like the beginning of end of the first half through the beginning of the second half, and kind of just really changed the nature of the game. Back and forth down the stretch, but really had to fight their way back into it after, by and large, outside of that final drive of the first half, I didn't think you really had much to hang your hat on if you were Notre Dame. I guess the only thing is like, hey, we forced a field goal on like the 2-yard line. Go ahead,
that
Corey.
was the thing. It was like you had a rough game. You were not playing well. Things were not looking good. But you were with Penn State. They're not going to blow you out. So you always know you're going to have a chance to be in this game. And so it's like if they're going to sit around 10-3, even if they'd been up 17-3, like you have a chance. They're not going to crush you. They're not a team that can put their the foot on your throat and end it. But like they did, they came out with a different resolve, a little different scheme in how they ran the ball. And that was productive, and that opened up the rest of the game. And like I said, I think it was last week or the week before, Riley Leonard is his ability to not have negative plays, to keep you on schedule, to keep you moving forward, to keep you within an opportunity to have to not have a crazy third and 17 or third and 12. He keeps you having things that are on schedule, and that is such a prime thing that makes this amazing, like a good team. Like I don't know many quarterbacks that can do that can not get sacked or get hit, 4 yards behind the line, and they find a way to get to the first down, or get back to the line of scrimmage. Like it's just kind of crazy how well Riley Leonard was able to pull that off. And then just the willpower that kid has. He will get hit and he will go drive for another 1 or 2 yards no matter what. I felt like when I was watching the game, when they got into anytime it was a short yardage situation, I was like, oh, Riley Leonard is the tush push for Notre Dame. That's what this is. It's an automatic. They're going to get it. I just don't have to even question it. If it's within a yard or two, he is the tush push for them. And this Notre Dame team, albeit, weakened and even more weakened now going into this championship game, was able to pull it out. There are other things I could say about this game where I feel like Notre Dame had a better game plan. And the other issue is Drew Aller. I hear people talk about his NFL potential, his ability, whatever. Boy, you didn't complete a pass to a wide receiver the entire game. Like that's a problem. I don't know why you're bringing back Kentron or bringing back all the running backs and all the defensive backs. Defensive ends. We talked about this a little bit off camera at one point in time. I don't know why you're bringing that back. If you really, you think you have a quarterback that can play well, but you go to the NFL and look at who you have. The people that are great, do great, that are either amazing athletes. You have the Jaden Daniels. You have the C.J. Stroud, who has a freak of an arm. You have Baker, who's a little bit athletic, whatever.
Lamar Jackson. Gotta throw that one in there.
Exactly, yeah. Or you have a either really good arm talent and ability to make good players. Like you have like Tom Brady, Mahomes, somebody that's you have these players that are either able to avoid in the pocket, they're also able to make passes in tight windows. I mean, look who Mahomes has played with. He hasn't had great receivers. Look who Aaron Rodgers played with. He had not terrible. He didn't have great receivers. I mean, not a single first round pick his entire time in Green Bay. You look at Tom Brady, all those white receivers. No offense, but like we all know that that white people are not as skilled and fast as the black people.
What do you have against Jordy Nelson? That's all I need to know.
Yeah, Jordy Nelson wasn't a first round pick. There's a reason he wasn't a first round pick. I'm just saying, we watch these quarterbacks that are either pinpoint accuracy or can move around in the pocket, or you're an athlete. Well, Drew Aller's a little bit of an athlete and he's a little bit of moving around the pocket, but he's missing that pinpoint accuracy to open up the game. And their receivers aren't the next level. They don't have Ohio State receivers. And if they had Ohio State receivers, this would be a team that would be formidable. But he can't win you a game with okay talent. And that's a problem. I don't foresee that being a good thing for Penn State in the future even. Like, he's good enough to keep you in the game. He might not lose it for you. He might throw an interception on the very end. But I just don't see this Penn State going somewhere. And it feels very much a little bit like James Franklin. It's like, it's good enough. Like, that's how he's been for 9 years. I'm in the top 10, but I'm not beating a top 5 team. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I get, okay, I beat Boise State. You couldn't beat an injured, limping Notre Dame team who is going to get wiped the floor with by Ohio State. Like,
well, yeah.
Sorry, I've some passionate feelings.
Tell us how you feel. Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Just it's coming out right out the gate. No, a lot to unpack there. Don't disagree on the evaluation of gosh, I want to say Christian Hackenberg. Drew Aller.
Drew Aller. But they seem similar, to be honest. I might have actually completed a pass to the wide receiver, but let's be frank.
Well, and your question on like why are they bringing back the defensive? Why are they bringing back Deni Dennis Sutton? Why are they bringing back Katron Allen? Why are they bringing back Nick Singleton? I'm like, because they have to. Would be my response. Like, they have to. I do think you could potentially upgrade your wide receiver room. I would expect them to be buyers with what they're doing in the retention space. Like, okay, you got to get a wide receiver or two that might be able to help. I think it's a fair question to be like, hey, how many of the cream of the crop are going to want to go there as opposed to places, other places that maybe just got a transfer quarterback that, has played pretty well.
In Miami?
Going down to South Beach. I don't know. I'm speculating.
Miami, Texas. I mean, look how many receivers.
Yeah, Miami, Texas. Let's see. Where else is there a killer QB? Well,
if I was a wide receiver, I wouldn't be opposed to going to Alabama. I don't care who you have at quarterback. I mean, who's the coach there?
DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, DeBoer gets the ball into playmakers. And you watch the wide receivers the last 2 years for Alabama and for Washington. Like, if you're good enough, it doesn't matter who he has at quarterback. He's going to get the ball in your hands. So
yeah. I mean, it may limit how many times he's able to get the ball in your hands. I'll like Jalen Milroe, but that's okay.
They also might just throw it deep to you 14 times in the game, and if they one or two get near you, you'll catch it.
There you go. Yeah, it's a volume play. What else was I going to say on that game? Okay, I can't go without acknowledging Jeremiah Love's awesome goal line run. I know that's probably been broken down ad nauseum, but just, man, when I was watching the game, just like, whoa. As he continued to break tackles and found his way to the end zone. Really excited for Notre Dame. Again, there's whispers that Marcus Freeman might interview for the Bears job. Good for him. Don't blame the Bears. But they had an awesome playoff run. I'm started to talking about it like they've already lost the national championship game. I maybe shouldn't. Maybe I should have a little bit more faith in them. The injuries feel like they're piling up for Notre Dame, like you mentioned. Again, lost the starting left tackle this last game, and he's confirmed out for the national championship. Lost your defensive tackle earlier on in the playoffs. It's going to be a real challenge for Notre Dame. So, again, I think the game plan going in to face to to face Ohio State is kind of similar to what Michigan did, where it's like, hey, can we drag you into the mud? Can we play a time of possession game where we're able to kind of hold the ball away from you so that you press, knowing that you've got fewer opportunities, and that ends up spoiling some of those opportunities. I just don't see how they can do it.
And honestly, that is the way to do it. Like, don't let that pass rush be something that's useful. Run right up between the tackles the entire time. Like, or even in between the guards, like the entire time. Go up the middle, run Riley Leonard up the middle, and continue to push yourself 2-3 yards at a time. You don't have the better athletes against Ohio State. You do not. I mean, we look at their wide receivers. They're just the sheer tools that are on that team. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to make it mucky and ugly. And if they are able to do that, if they're able to get into that, like maybe 1 or 2 series, and then they are able to score a field goal or a touchdown or get something kind of like that, then it can start to get really ugly quick. Because we've had games this year where people have had a grand total of 7 or 8 possessions. Well, if I'm already knocked you out 2 of them and I scored myself 1, I'm up potentially 3 possessions on you, kind of thing, like of what you thought. And I don't know.
If I'm Notre Dame and I've scored to take an early lead or even to tie the game, I might try a surprise onside kick, try and steal a possession.
To be honest, the way Texas played Ohio State, like, can you do the same thing? Limit the run. That's what they did. They limited the run and made them force a pass, and they forced the ball out of what's the kid Jeremiah? What's the wide receiver number 4? I can see.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, like when we talked about Jeremiah Love, I was mixed up.
Yeah,
I have the name wrong. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith. When they forced the ball out of Jeremiah Smith's hands. Jeremiah Smith had 1 catch for 2 yards in the game, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
And they had double coverage on him for the whole time. We can talk about that a little bit more when we analyze that. But like, if you do that and you force the other people to beat you, I mean, you take away the run, and then it's like, all right, well, can Will Howard hit a pass that's decent, or can they catch you in a blitz? Because that's what happened in Texas. They hit number 2 Emeka Egba or whatever his name is.
Egbuka, I think is how most people say it.
I don't care enough to learn it. He's gonna be an NFL first round talent. Let's be real, but like, yeah. Like that, Will Howard was able to get passes there and then hit a pass over the top for when they caught him in a rush. But like, if they didn't get caught in that rush, that's an interesting game, right? Because they scored with 39 seconds left. Now I'm analyzing that game, but I don't mean to do that. But what I'm saying is that's kind of the similar game that Notre Dame has to play, is model Texas's defense to some degree and see if you can just get a few nasty plays in and score.
Yeah, it's tall order. I don't know if you had any more on the Penn State Notre Dame game, where we can kind of shift. I know we kind of meandered a little bit there, but
yeah, no, just a big fan of Notre Dame's coach and what he's accomplished this year, and they looked like they just made great adjustments, and he keeps his calm and composure, and it seems that team is, even though a lot of times you see a lot of luck where it's like, oh, the team has no injuries and that's why they're in the championship game. This team feels like they're in the championship game because they've adopted the culture of the coach.
Yeah, they've been riddled with all kinds of adversity throughout the playoffs with regard to injuries, and
he's just like, you know what,
keep trucking.
Matter, roll off my plate. We've got a job to do. We're going to do it, and we're going to find ways to do it. We're going to be creative to do it, and we're just going to keep grinding. And like, I mean, if Notre Dame wins this championship game, if they win the championship, it is because of their coach, flat out. Like, he's been incredible.
He sure has. Yeah, like, I mean, we kind of gave some of our thoughts on Texas Ohio State already.
I think we can definitely go into that a little more, though, for sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to take first crack at it?
Yeah, my thought process is I like the way Texas played that game, and that the fact that they took away Jeremiah Smith, said, hey, you have to beat us with everybody else, and it says something about Ohio State saying, like, oh yeah, you can do that, and we can beat you with everybody else. They didn't even try; they forced it to them. Like, all right, you're gonna put 2 players on there, we'll beat you 10-9 over here. It's not a problem. And they weren't dominating in any way, shape, or form, but they didn't look like. I mean, they looked like they had the superior athletes. They looked like they were the better. Yeah, I say athletes is what I'm more focused on. I felt like this game, Steve Sarkisian called a great game. to actually keep his team in there. I felt like they couldn't move the ball all against the Ohio State for a little while. Ohio State just looked bigger, stronger, and faster. And then Steve Sarkisian was able to find ways to, especially in the running game, in order to open it up, and especially in that second half. He schemed some things that were really, really good. I think the testament that I saw of that exact analysis was when you got to first and goal at the 1 yard line, and you didn't try to run it in straight up the middle 4 times. And like the reason they couldn't do that is because they were not the better team talent wise. You had too many injuries, and you're facing an Ohio State team, honestly, that has done great in the portal and great in recruiting. And not that Texas hasn't done well, but you haven't done Ohio State level. And there was a reason that you couldn't run the ball right at them. And they had to get cute and ended up costing them 7 points. But that's how close you were, though. I mean, Steve Sarkisian schemed a great game that you were within a 1 yard, of tying the game, and then who knows what happens there.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't had that blown screen at the very end of the second half, who knows what would have been on in that game, to be honest.
Yeah, there's it's a game of inches for sure, right? Like I did you have any issue with the toss play? I know that's been a heated debate.
You mean
everywhere.
When they went wide?
Yeah, where they went wide on that.
6 yards on the second down. I don't necessarily, because I believed for a fact that you couldn't run it up the middle on them 4 times in a row and get that yard. And that's why I'm like, you have to get creative to some degree.
Yeah, like I don't hate the play call. I don't know if I love it on second down.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's on second down. Like I thought one of the things that they might do, again, Jarrett Gibson has been their kind of short yardage back usually. He's kind of built like a fullback. I'm surprised. The thing that I was more surprised, like, why didn't you bring in Arch? Because he's a run threat. That makes even if it gives like one person just a little bit pause. Like, is Arch taking that to the outside, and it freezes a linebacker for even fractions of a second. That might give you enough to run inside, or again, if he reads it right, to pull it. Like
that's 100% the right call in my opinion, because if you go back to the 4th down conversion that they had earlier in the game, they bring in Arch Manning to do that run on the outside, and it's his speed that's able to open that up. And honestly, you probably should have done that.
That was my other thought. Is like it already had worked, so someone's going to have it just for just a hair longer than they should. Their eyes on Arch Manning, and it might give you the opportunity to run it right at the middle. That was the only thing I probably would have done differently. Like I don't blame them for not trying. You mentioned earlier, kind of when we were talking about Notre Dame, like, hey, run right at Ohio State, which probably is their best chance. I don't know how likely it is, because the interior of Ohio State's defensive line is extremely good, but it's, I think, right now where Notre Dame is most healthy and therefore probably most capable. So it's probably not super likely, but it's probably your best chance, right? If that makes sense.
That's what I agree. I'm like, I don't think you have an advantage over Ohio State.
Right.
I think that's where
I think
disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure. But getting back to the Texas game, like, yeah, that was the one thing I wanted to just kind of tackle and see what you thought. I think that we're kind of on the same page there, where it's like, all right, maybe you could have done 1 or 2 things differently, but all in all, like, again, it was a 14-point total difference where you give up a 75-yard touchdown with like 16 seconds left in the half, and then you have what could be like it wasn't exactly a 14-point swing, but you're knocking on the door, and on 4th and goal you give up a strip sack fumble after a little bit of a loss on 3rd down, and so there's the difference, right? 2 huge plays, but outside of those 2 plays, like, you're playing them essentially to a draw. Like you're doing really well. So I don't know. Like, yeah, I didn't have like any like major takeaways from that game other than like, man, I think Ryan Day's legacy is getting complicated, kind of like we predicted. But if he wins it, I think it becomes kind of open and shut. I was like, okay, well, yeah, he's had a rough. He has to get the monkey off his back with Michigan, but outside of that, like, there's really not a whole lot of flaws in the resume.
So, do you think Ohio State would be happy to take a championship now, and then you have to take 3 more losses to Michigan?
I'd say yeah, because at that point, I mean, you still have, what was that crazy streak that they had over Michigan for like 15 or
14
something straight games, something like that. I don't know
I
exactly
think it
what
was
the
twice in 20 years that Michigan won.
yeah. So like you could say like okay, whatever. And the other part of it is that your championship sort of nullifies what Michigan just did last year. So it's like, all right, good job, guys. You guys won one title. Excellent. Last one was in '97. Well, we won one here. We won one in 2014. Uh, it
Well,
won one
Michigan
in
did win last year, right?
right. That's what I'm saying. It's like so like they had that one plus the '97. Right. Those are the last
Yeah.
two Michigan titles. Well, Ohio State has three in that same time. So like you when it comes to like the trash talk, it kind of nullifies everything that Michigan was able to hold over your head for the last 14 or for the last 12 months or so.
Yeah, if you go from 2001 to 2021, Michigan they didn't play once in 2020, and Michigan only won twice in
Oof.
that. So,
Yeah. So I think that I mean I think you take it, assuming that in your proposed like would you rather losing to Michigan the next three times doesn't necessarily remove me from
playoffs, yeah.
play. Yeah, so I still have cracks at others. Like, all right, I probably would live with it. I don't love it. I don't like it even, but I would take it, right? Like,
And what does this say about Indiana?
yeah,
Their only two
that's
losses are to
like,
the two teams that are in the national title championship game.
yeah, I'm still waiting on some apologies to be given to the Indiana Hoosiers from
Kirk,
some, yeah, from some talkers who really popped their mouths off in that first weekend and now have not had a whole lot to say since, really. Like, so okay, we can put a lot of that to bed and um, I,
well, and
I
then even if we just watched the first round of the NFL playoffs,
yeah,
how many people,
yep.
how many teams didn't belong?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I just like. Why are we talking like TV execs? Of course, like everyone wants competitive games, of course,
Yeah.
but we shouldn't be trying to manufacture them. Like,
No, that's what Vegas does.
yeah.
So Vegas is,
So
if we're going straight off of non-results, then yeah, great.
yeah, we can just hand out the title in August once we see who makes it healthy out of fall camp.
Although it is a, I don't know if Kirk is a, I think Kirk's not a millennial, but it does kind of feel like here's your trophy for participation a little bit.
What do you mean?
Like if you get the teams that are like, and you're like, oh, you're the best team, but you
Oh
haven't
yeah,
had the best results. Here's your trophy.
yeah,
In the
exactly. No,
playoffs.
you're not
In the
wrong.
playoffs. Good job.
Absolutely. Um, I guess we kind of did championship preview. I don't know if I have a ton more on that. Just I'm really not confident that Notre Dame's going to be able to keep this thing close. I think this one snowballs on them.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the 7.5. I think it's on what I saw on DraftKings.
Oh, 7.5.
Let me see if that's correct.
Jump on that. Not gambling advice.
What did you say?
I'm saying like I'm
Jump
not
on that.
yeah, hammer that is what I
That's
would
what I
do.
thought. I'm like, that seems low. And the only way I don't see it. Oh, now it's up to 8.5. It was a 7.5 this morning.
All the same. Like I thought they
Yeah.
didn't open it at like 9.5, almost 10, which feels better. Like feels more right. Even then, I still expect. I still was on like Ohio State to cover.
Yeah.
Now I do have to like admit, right? Like when I was predicting the playoff as a whole, I have Notre Dame winning this game. I don't
Yeah.
know what happened there. Like the more I watch them, and I'm like, no, they're probably not going to win, especially now that injuries have piled up. So
Well, the other thing that
I want to
happened
make sure I'm
was,
acknowledging that yes, technically I've predicted Notre Dame, and I probably am kind of rooting for Notre Dame, which is weird because I'm not a fan of Notre Dame typically,
yeah,
but yeah, I just think this goes Ohio State's way. I think they just got too many weapons on the outside. I think they're significantly healthier than the Irish, and it's going to take a really like an awesome team effort, and then you're going to need some hero work from both Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Love, and probably your defensive line as a whole is going to have to play way above their heads.
yeah. So if you were giving Notre Dame a percentage of chance of winning, what would you give them?
7.
Oh, wow.
Not a lot. Like
I'm more like a 20-25% chance of winning. Like,
oh,
I think
I think they need to have something really special happen.
yeah, I think you could make this game messy, and that would give you a chance. And I think there's about a 1 in 4, 1 in 5 chance that you could make it messy.
Okay.
But
Sure.
I do think that if I'm saying, okay, I got 1 in 5 chance that Notre Dame could win, but I also, if I was going to take that 1 in 5 chance, I'd say 3 out of those 5 Ohio State blows you out.
Yeah.
And then 1 out of those 5, it's close. Yeah, so I think it's much more likely that Ohio State blows this team out and they win by 14, 17 points. And it becomes a celebration in the fourth quarter than anything else. The one thing that they don't have going for them is that Notre Dame is going to be methodical and the clock's going to go quickly.
Yeah, they're going to try and shorten the game for sure. Mm-hmm.
And so it won't be as big a blowout as we've seen against some of the teams that they've had this year.
Do you have like prop bets up there? What's like a Julian Sayin anytime touchdown?
You want to see what that is?
I'm just curious. Like that would be another one that I'd be like, if you want to keep it interesting.
On there.
And maybe it's because I don't know if they count passing touchdowns or how they do that. But if there's a prop where you could say like, hey, he will either throw or.
It says anytime TD score. So Will Howard's a 210 plus 210. I don't see saying on here at all.
I mean, it'd probably be like plus like 2,200 or something crazy, but it'd be like, maybe sprinkle some of that on, and it'll keep the fourth quarter interesting.
A no touchdown score plus 12,000. That's not happening.
Yeah, that's not happening. Don't light your money on fire for that one.
I would love to see a close game. If not, and if Notre Dame wins this game, what does that say for Ryan Day? Oh my goodness! I think you have people like arms.
Yeah, I was gonna say like all the goodwill you've earned back in these last 3 weeks, gone.
Yeah,
I think just because of who you're playing and when you're playing them and what status they're at, right? Like again, like I said, they're the walking wounded. They're missing a lot of really key contributors. This should be a layup for Ohio State. So,
and if Notre Dame wins, I mean, you have the first Black/Asian coach, not only in the championship but ever to win a championship, and not just a Black and Asian coach, like just a really great dude. Like, yeah, I don't know how you cannot root for him.
Yeah, he's very likable. It's hard not to pull for him. I think we said this on the last pod, but someone tweeted out, it's like, man, like Marcus Freeman's doing the impossible. He's making Notre Dame easy to root for, which is wild. Yeah. Like, So yeah, I'd be thrilled for him if he's able to do it. I just don't think the stars are aligning for them, especially with some of the injuries they've sustained in this playoff run, and so we'll have to see. But again, make it interesting. I'm good with it. Like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Those injuries are what makes the playoff interesting too. Like, it's just like you never know who's going to get hurt, and I think that's also kind of like when we made the predictions early on. You're like, I don't know what I was thinking. Nobody saw this Ohio State team show up. This Ohio State team hasn't been here for 12 games this year, and then they decided to show the last 3.
Totally different. Totally different than what we'd seen basically all year in terms of their explosiveness. Like, man. Cool. Let's see. Any other odds and ends that we want to talk through? And do you have any like transfer portal, NFL draft decisions staying going? I know we already touched on Penn State.
We can talk Carson Beck to Miami.
Yeah, let's do it.
Making loads more money than he would have made as a second round or third round pick.
Yeah. So like, salute to him. Good job. Like,
what is the reported number? 4 million.
That's what they're saying. So
and you get to go hang out with your girlfriend. Like, it's a win-win-win-win for him.
Yeah, the stars aligned for that for him. I am a little shocked as if I was a Miami fan, which I am not.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you wouldn't confuse me for a Miami fan ever. $4 million and we don't know how that arm's gonna heal is wild to me. Like, that's way too much money. Like, no, you can come here. Like, you can come here, but for the right price. And I think that's what we said on the last pod was like, maybe that was the discussion with Georgia was like, hey, you can come here, but whatever the dollar amount is was maybe those two parties were a bit different in terms of what they saw the value there.
Yeah, honestly, if this is where I think I would love to see a new stat come out. Like, you have wins above replacement or something like that for baseball, and you have like winning share percentage, I think, for NBA. I'd like to see some stat about that, like wins above replacement for football, for college football or any football. And like, I don't think you're that much higher than what Gunnar Stockton can provide you. I mean, maybe you go out and get somebody else, but like, there are games where you threw 3 touchdowns and can throw the ball down the field. or 3 interceptions and you couldn't throw the ball down the field. Like, and that happened pretty frequently. And I say it's a win-win-win for Beck because like you get a chance to go, you get a chance to go to Miami. I mean, the expectations can't be high. You haven't won a bowl game since 2004. And I mean, like the one downfall is you have the quarterback killer that's there in Mario Cristobal, and now you had Cam Ward that survived that, but we'll see if that.
Yeah, it's also interesting because it's a different offense than Carson Beck's played in, so I don't know if there's some tailoring of that offense to maybe more suit what Carson Beck has played in the past, but spread them out 4 or 5 wide and get the ball out in a couple of seconds. I don't think is really his game. So it'd be interesting to see how that changes if they're kind of just deep shots off the run, which again is part of more of what he did really well in years past. The other part that I wanted to, sorry, you said something there that now I'm forgetting what my point was on it, but yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, for him. Oh, this is it. Yeah. So with now NIL being a thing, and especially like I understand the house settlement might change this, and that it will kind of cap the sort of pay for play version of NIL to a certain degree, where I guess there's a third party system that will actually consider what the true like fair market value is for any other actual NIL, for like truly what NIL is meant to be, for just using your name, image, and likeness to promote products or things like that.
But how is that any different than what they were doing earlier? Like, hey, your cap is a scholarship. Like that to me, it's just like your cap is whatever someone's willing to pay you.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah, but if it's settled with them and the athletes, then it becomes an agreed upon cap, right? So that's the part that I think has been missing. But my point is that, hey, like I can stay in school, make more money than I would in the NFL, play against lesser competition, right? Like I'm not playing NFL defensive players.
Yeah.
I probably am to a certain degree limiting my injury risk just because I'm not getting hit as hard and as fast as I would in the NFL.
Well, yeah.
Like there's all kinds of reasons. Like if you're not a first or a second round pick, I think the answer is almost always going to be go back to school.
And we will have 7 or 8 year quarterbacks in college football after that, unless they force them out.
Yeah, I that's one that I kind of like. I don't know if fear is the right word, but like I'm concerned about that. Like I don't want career college football players. Like I'm fine with like, hey, make your money. Like $4 million with Carson Beck. Like there's no state income tax in the state of Florida. If he plays his cards right and like uses that money well, like you don't need to work another day of your life. Like I think that's probably enough nowadays. Like $1 million's not, but 4 probably would do
you're
it.
gonna have to get taxed 32%, 34%, something like that on that.
Yeah, something like that. Again, you're the accountant here, but like, but yeah, I think between like being able to put that into some tax advantaged accounts and just letting that sit in the market and over the course of your career, I think that would be almost enough where you could basically live off that.
Oh, yeah.
So all that to say, like, I think you're going to see more and more people, more and more players, if they aren't in that super top tier. And this will be the interesting things. Like, if that happens and you start seeing fewer and fewer guys go to the league early, does the NFL respond to that? Like, do they say like, oh, you know what, we're going to make people eligible right from 18, or maybe we shorten it a year, or are they okay with like, hey, sorry, what?
We're only going to pull from a developmental league, and you have to come in underneath our rules.
Yeah, maybe it's something like that, or maybe they're okay with it. Like, hey, great. But I think that you could potentially run the risk of running into a generation that understands that football is not forever, and then says like, you know what, I'm going to make my money in college playing against lesser players, and then I don't need to play anymore. I don't have to earn any more money.
I mean, and you think about like Eric Crouch back in the day, the 1998 running back or quarterback that never got in the NFL. Like those would be players that are going to make money.
Tim Tebow.
Yeah, exactly. Charlie Ward.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out. Like, that was all I wanted to say there. Does Beck work at Miami? I'm skeptical, and this is the other thing I wanted to say here. Home road splits. Look at that guy's home and road splits from this last year. They're wild. And by road, I mean like anywhere away from Athens, right? So he plays neutral site against Clemson, had a pretty good game there. Nothing like crazy, but like I think his passer rating and stuff, that they had a pretty good second half there. But like at Kentucky, really bad. Jacksonville, versus Florida, pretty bad. There's another at Ole Miss, like really bad. Like and it's fascinating because some of those, like again, like Jacksonville is not I mean, it's a crazy environment, but half of them are on your side, right? So it's not like a super super daunting environment. And it's like, okay, so you're going to do that, and then you're going to have to go to Lane Stadium against Virginia Tech next year. Again, Virginia Tech maybe isn't. In fact, maybe isn't is not the right. Virginia Tech won't be a good team next year. I'll go ahead and go on record in saying that. But that environment will be crazy. So don't let it get don't throw an early pick in that game, Carson Beck. Things might get squirrely.
But I mean, Kentucky was the same way this year, right? They weren't good, and
That's
he was
true.
terrible.
That's true. Game. Yeah, I don't know if I trust Brent Pry though. Like, I mean, come on, like Brent Pry's really struggling. All that to say, like, I don't know. I don't know how it works out there at Miami. They were really dangerously close to losing like 3 or 4 other games. Like, so just really interesting from that perspective. I mean, did you have any more on back to Miami or?
I was actually just pulling up a calculator to do the math, but I'm looking at it right now. Do you want me to give you the ratings on away versus home?
Sure.
Clemson at home 90.1. Tennessee Tech, whatever, 82.
Well, they were at home. That's a neutral site one, so that one is like,
it was
like that one's the one anomaly,
Atlanta, right?
Yeah. Okay, so it's maybe a little bit partisan, but Clemson's what, 2.5 hours away. Like I'm pretty sure they traveled for that game.
All right, Tennessee Tech 82.8, at Kentucky 67.8, at Alabama 64.1, home versus Auburn 91.5, home versus Mississippi State 94.6, at Texas 65.5, home versus Florida 66.7. So that's only
their home game, but again, that's in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville. At Mississippi 57.3, home against Tennessee 97.7, UMass 91.2 at home, Georgia Tech 98 or 81.5 at home, Texas on the road 58 on the road, but like on the
in Atlanta.
Yeah, those splits are significantly different. I would say that the teams seem a lot harder though. I mean, you faced Kentucky, which kind of has always had Georgia's number. Like they'll play Georgia close the last few years.
They play Georgia tough, that's for sure.
So, then you played at Alabama, number 4 in the nation at the time. Texas, okay, number 12 or 16. Let's be like Alabama, number 12 or 16 overall. I hate that. Number 4 at the time. It's like because we didn't know any better.
Right. Right.
You played at Texas, which was number 1. Probably if we're re-ranking the teams, probably the number 3 or 4 team.
Yeah, right? 5 at the very lowest, I think.
Yeah, and then you played at Mississippi, and we're ranking that game. I mean,
8,
they had
9,
win
10.
against nobody in Duke, but at 12, they're a top 12 team.
Yeah, I put them somewhere in there.
And then Tennessee probably around that same time area, even though that one's at home. And you played pretty well at that, so you've had a hard away schedule as well.
Yeah, no arguments there, but just a little food for thought.
Yep. I honestly, I would love to see Cristobal have a debacle, but we'll see. Like, I do think if you don't make the playoffs next year and you don't make the ACC championship next year for Miami, it starts to roll downhill because it's like we said earlier, if Cristobal can't do it there, who can do it there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it also depends on how Florida State does this year. If Florida State wins 8 or 9 games, like it has a huge turnaround,
and beats you,
that's an issue. If they beat you, it's a real issue.
Yeah.
I mean, we expect Florida to run the state for a little bit for the next 2-3 years for sure. And then
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Florida will win. They play Miami in Coral Gable or, at Hard Rock Stadium. I guess it's technically Miami Gardens, I think is where it is, but they play at Miami. And I think they're going to win that game. Barring some crazy turnaround, like maybe Miami can sort of patch things together again this year. after kind of going all in last year and coming up short. I got to see some. There's speculation that receivers will follow back to Miami, and like they better. It's kind of my response, because I think they lose their top 5 in terms of receiving yards. I think their top 5 leaders in receiving yards from 2024 are gone. So gonna have to replenish the weapons, or develop the ones that are already on campus and kind of were your second and third string players. But all that to say, like, I don't know if there's any other like portal talk you want to talk through. Can't think of any other like major developments. That feels like that's the biggest one to drop so far. Quinn Ewers is going to go somewhere, right? Like, we don't know what's going on there yet. So,
I mean, there's no way I think he goes to the NFL right now. Although I think he's better than people, the NFL evaluators, think he is right now. Like, if people are saying like, oh, he could be like a day 3 player, probably 3rd round or so. Like, I think he'll end up being a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. Like, I think you could get him a 2nd round, and that'd be like a good ROI. But I think he just needs to prove it.
I got him as like a 4th or a 5th round grade.
Yeah.
That they are where I would be willing to take him as a GM. Be like, all right, we'll roll the dice on him. We'll see what happens.
Oh, and I know people would let me take him down in the 4th or 5th round, so I would take him down in the 4th or 5th round. But
yeah, and plus I think that there's like, hey, we got to rehab. He's had a ton of injuries, so like it's just like I want to draft him low, so there's no expectation that he's playing, right? Like, and I probably am not drafting him if I have some sort of QB conundrum, right? If I don't know who my starter is, I'm probably not bringing him in. But if I have a solid starter, it's like, hey, look, this guy's just going to sit here, be your understudy for 2 years, and we'll see what happens from there.
Well, and to be honest, that's how I am. I am very much a pro, or like a fan of that mentality. I mean, every now and then you do have the Jaden Daniels and the CJ Strouds that come out and they ball out, but more often than not, they need some time to kind of just get used to the speed, get used to the terminology, get used to how everything's different. I mean, you get hit in college football, it's okay. How that hurt rolled up. You get hit in NFL, and you're potentially going to the hospital. Let's be frank.
True. Anything else? We might keep it kind of short and sweet this go around, for us at least. 42 minutes. All right. Cool. So a couple of housekeeping items. Number one, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for joining us for another year. We will recap the national championship game. I'm going to try and put together like a best of and worst of this year, because there are some things that we nailed, like, and there I'm sure are others that I've blocked from my memory conveniently that we completely missed on. But like, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna get this wrong. Like, you were all over. I can't even remember what it was, but you were just all over it. You said it, and the one that I'm gonna give myself credit for, of course, I remember mine because I'm self-absorbed, is like, I remember after that Florida State Georgia Tech game, I was like, guys, this is going to get worse. Like, the way that they lost that game is problematic. I'll have to go find the exact quote, but I'm going to try and compile little clips and like play them for us to like listen to, and then for the audience to like listen to. See if we can do that. So that might not be like this very next episode, but at some point during this offseason, we'll take kind of larger hiatuses between episodes, of course, like kind of just take a little bit of time off. But thanks everyone for joining us on the journey, and we'll see you, I don't know, sometime after the national championship. We usually record on Monday nights, so we'll be watching it. So like, we probably won't do it that night, I don't think. Okay, so we'll do it sometime in the few days thereafter, and then some sort of 2024 recap, and then we'll periodically show up, kind of throughout the off season with a little bit of content here and there. Here and there, and probably just when major developments take place or transfer portal window opens. What?
When Quinn Ewers decides where he's
going. That's a big one. Oregon, Ohio State.
Yeah.
Notre Dame. One of those 3 probably, I think.
Yeah, Oregon's gonna like you. I suggested Oregon earlier, and then you said who's their quarterback?
Dante Moore is who they have.
And apparently, like, Florida State had a wide receiver, Malik Benson, who the reason he went to Oregon was he's like, I'm gonna try. I'm excited to play with Dante Moore. So that must have been part of the pitch.
All right. I think from a recruiting standpoint, at some point it's going to start really hard. Like Notre Dame, if they were to go back into the portal and get another one, I think they'd be hard pressed to get another premier quarterback that's a freshman or that's a high school player to commit to them. And that's why I think that they don't.
Who, Notre Dame?
Yeah, I don't think that he's like. I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to go to Notre Dame. Let me put it that way. I don't think, but maybe I could be wrong. Like again, that could be on the worst of. We'll see.
That's when I could definitely see. I'm like, that makes sense to me. I would want to go there. If
I
Marcus
see. I
Peters,
could see him going back to Ohio State. I think before that,
that'd be nuts.
because he's already been there for a year. Like I think that everyone in that, I think they even said in the lead up to the Ohio State Texas game, like, hey, he was great when he was here, right? And Jack Sawyer and him were roommates. Apparently, they talked a little bit after the game because he had the strip sack and the return. How'd you like to give that up to your roommate? That'd be rough. But he was just like,
love you, bro. Sorry, gotta go
well,
score.
yeah, I can't remember exactly what he said. He said something like blank you or something, and then they both kind of had a laugh about it. Like, so I think that if he wanted to come back, I think that there'd be open arms there. But again, the question then becomes, do you want to roll with? They'll have a sophomore, a redshirt freshman, and Julian Sand. So it's just going to be fascinating to see who continues to just like poach the very best QB as like a 1-year rental, and who continues to do that year after year after year, and who ends up saying like, oh, we did that here and there when we felt like we didn't have the right guy on the roster, but now that we've got one, we're sticking with him. So anyway, thanks everyone. Appreciate you joining us again for what is this? Is this year 3 of CFP Paint?
I think it's just 2.
Is it just 2?
I think it's just 2.
No, it's got to be 3.
I have no idea.
I think it's got to be 3 because I think we whittle down. We're like, which of us is going to be gone by the start of August next year is really the question. Because like we're like Willy Wonka and
Mark, we lost Brian.
Yeah, I think that's how that played out, right?
Okay, that's probably true.
Anyway, we appreciate it. I know, like, that I've got friends that listen to it pretty regularly. It's fun to do, and so appreciate you listening and then texting and letting us know what you think. But we'll check in periodically throughout the off season. But it's been a fun ride. Thanks everyone.